Hello there, welcome to another video from AI-ology. In this video, we want to write some code for having a model working in downstream tasks related to document question answering without any fine-tuning or pre-training model, so it is zero-shot document question answering. And we want to work with a model called Flan-ULv2, and this model is provided by Google. And for understanding that how this model is working, you need first read the paper UL2, Unifying Language Learning Paradigm, which is mostly new, 28 February 2023 from Google Brain. And we don't want to walk through the paper now. We just want to write some code and use this model from Hugging Face. We want to use Hugging Face Hub for using that. And um, you read the paper. If you have any comment, put it in the comments in this video. But basically, UL2 is an encoder-decoder model like T5, and it's getting a better performance when it's fine-tuned uh, than GPT, than T5 itself, than some other language model like UniLM. And the way that it is trained is by help of some mixture of denoisers. And by mixture of denoiser, it's having multiple kind of masking on the document, and it's fine-tuned on different downstream tasks. And then it enabling, based on the encoder-decoder architecture, uh, or they also mentioned it can be decoder only. It's enabling different downstream tasks, zero-shot learning. So what we want to do here, we want to write some code by help of a library called LangChain. Yeah. So the LangChain, I found it very interesting. I like to have a video on top of that. So it would be a language model building an application based on the language model for different downstream tasks. So they have a fairly good documentation. Yeah, so you can do different things for this library from, uh, let me find this, like from generating some example to augmenting some data, summarization, question answering. I think there was also agent. Yeah, so if you want to create a chat bot or email bot, stuff like that, this can really be helpful. And there is a chain of thought reasoning if you haven't heard about it. So it's outperforming GPT by applying some engineered prompt based on chain of thought. And I think one of the reasons they call it language chain is because of that. And also it has some of the cool application like asking question from graph. If I can find them here, I will explain them on top of it. So maybe I can search it here, like question answering. Yeah, and they have pretty good documentation about different kind of question answering can happen on uh, different document. So I think one part of the document is this one. Another part is, let me again search that question answering. And there is a document question answering. Yeah, so one of the cool thing is that they have some connection through some of the famous uh, embedding databases like VV8 or stuff like that. And uh, they have created a pretty good API for creating embedding search or uh, document search using the embedding and stuff like that. I wanna find like document question answering here. Cool. So uh, basically they have, if I wanna go through it very fast, we have some document loader that we can load some of the document like HTML from images, PDF. They have some underneath library like Poplar, stuff like that parse these things for us. They have also using unstructured library, if I can find it again here, but they have something called unstructured, another library unstructured. Yeah, so that unstructured is using, as I said, a Poplar, the Tesseract OCR, and LibreOffice for parsing some of the images and text. And I'm not sure that they have a language model on top of that to make those output like uh, refine or better. But you have a data loader, then by having that data loader, you can pass that context and ask some question by help of the language model by predefining some prompt. So what we want to do here is enabling that feature. Just write some code to see how it works. The first thing, we need to install that library, which is pip install LangChain, and I want to install that. While it's installing, I will explain the next part. So the next part is there is another cool stuff here, which is called Chroma DB. And the Chroma DB is, as you see here, this is an embedding database, and all of these are like MIT license or Apache v2 that you can use those libraries freely in your project. So uh, this is like a database, but for this kind of database, we have some documents and their embedding, or maybe some images and their embeddings. And the cool thing about that is that it can be used for like document search, for image search, for information retrieval, stuff like that. And it can also be memory based. Like if you don't have any server, you don't want to save them really, you can have just a memory Chroma DB ready for your querying, embedding, and stuff like that. So uh, the first thing we want to install this LangChain, and I have installed that. The second thing that we like to install is that Chroma DB, because for each document, we want to save their embedding in the database. Then what we want to do is, if we ask a question from whole document, like from 10 different documents, it can search by the embedding and find which document probably has the answer. And then using that language model, it try to answer that prompt. So it would be a little complicated in terms of what you see as a high level, but in the code, by help of that LangChain and the Chroma DB, it's really easy to implement this kind of stuff. And after installing that, I think because we want to use some unstructured document, if you want to use that, we can also install pip install on unstructured. I will do that just to show you an example. Of course, we don't need it, but just for our simplicity, for loading data, I'm using this one. You can use any like text file. Suppose you have images and currently you applied to OCR, you have saved your text file like in one text file, uh, and then you can load them by these libraries. So we have this. I just want to clean the output, and let's go to the next part. What we want to do is we want to use the Hugging Face API token, and I have an API token. I don't want to show you. I will highlight this part, but you can get your token and use this token for your Hugging Face hub. So by doing that, you will access to the model and we can change. So maybe for this one, I can go to the documentation of Chroma and have, for example, inside the user guide, I can say about Chroma, how the Chroma is, or maybe, yeah, let's copy and paste that. And I'm removing the spaces and everything here. Okay. I like to have like each sentence in one line. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I want to create a whole document. The whole document can be called a state of union, and I want to save that as a text file. So we have one text file, and I will explain how it is working. So we have a state of the union, and it's already empty. And what we want to do is we get the document one, and we add two new line, and then document two, again, two new line. So between each document, we will have two new line, and then doc3. Okay, so we have this, and now we can say with open like text data, that's text, and it can be w as f. We wanna f dot write that state of union. So we will save the whole document here. So that document is saved, and if you look at that document, would be something like this. This is exactly what we expected. Each of these is supposed to be one document, like from OCR, from PDF parser, anything. So next part is we want to use that unstructured library and load that text file. So for using that, we need to import that LangChain document loader unstructured file loader, and then we want to load that document here. So the name of the file is this, and if I load this, I need to import it. So if I load this, it's that I'm downloading. It's using the NLTK because, as I said, it has some like cleaning part to load the document. So if I say what is doc, I can say I think length of the document. So we have one document here, and I can say document 0. Sorry, we can see inside document 0 what it is inside. We have a document and we have a page content. So I'm not sure. Yeah, this way. So we can get the page content, and you see that we have the whole thing as a text here. I'm not sure I'm doing this right because I'm thinking that each of these documents should be saved as one file and then load them. We will experiment them. I'm pretty new to this library and I'm not sure about it yet. But yeah, so far we have some text ready. We want to see how this would be look like. So the next part is we want to use the Hugging Face hub, and using that we want to use that Flan-ULv2 as you see here, and the temperature 0.1 means that do not be very explorative, and max new token would be 256. How many tokens you can provide as a new token. So we will have Flan-U2 ready. Then we need to have text splitter. So by text splitter, we are splitting this text, and this chunk size means for each row of this, we should not have more than 150 characters. And if you want to have overlap, means that we will have this as one, then starting from this part again, we will have another part. So we're chunking, and we are creating a text like a sliding window on top of the text. So first we need to create that, and then we need to pass that document. So we need to say get this document and get the page contents. So now, because the code is like that, I'm thinking that maybe we should add this text from each document, and then in the next line we wanna get the embedding. So we have a Hugging Face embedding, and we get the embedding. And when we have the embedding, we wanna use a document search using that text that we got and from the embeddings that we have. So we want to say fill that database using this text and using the embeddings that you can find. This embedding is like a function that apply to this text, and we now in the database have each text and their embedding. Okay. One other thing we can add here to the embedding is some metadata. For example, we can add this kind of metadata. We can say uh, each of these texts has a metadata called source, and that is showing based on the length of the text. So the whole text here, because each chunk is 150, so we just having which chunk of this data is related to this text and embedding. So if we have one document from start to end, at least we can find out which portion of the document has that information. We can add any metadata we want. For example, I know that this document, for example, is uh, gotten from this website. It's gotten from a different website. So we can add those information as metadata. That information can be used during training, during the prompting as extra information that can be helpful for the model. So that's it. So we have the document search ready. Let's run this until this point. So we have the model ready, and yeah, it said running Chroma using direct local API, and because we don't have any server, it is locally, and data will be transient. So sounds great. We can go to the next part, and for the next part, what we want to do, I want to show you two different steps. So usually, when we want to use the uh, when we want to use the question answering with sources, we can use something like this. So we have that function loaded from here, language chain question answering with sources, and we have load question answering with sources chain. And we say we want to use this model, and we can pass what is a chain type. In the documentation, they mention different chain type. I think if we search for chain type, chain, I don't know what I should write here as. It may be exactly like this. So if I have something like this, yeah. So it gives me different way that I can have a chain of thought. It's not the chain of thought, but very similar. I think I should search for question answering. I don't know why I cannot find the place I was before. Yeah, that is cool. So here you see that we have different kind of chain. We have a stuff chain, map reduce, refine, and map re-rank. And each of them is working differently. For example, the map reduce is, as the name is clear, is using the map and reduce for reaching to the part of the text that we want and then apply the language model. Or refine seems like it is applying some refinement on top of the answers. And stuff is something, I don't know, it's like their own way of chain to question answering. I'm not aware of all of these details, but uh, the cool part is that we can have a prompt template. And for example, in this case, they're mentioning when you want to answer every question, suppose that the the piece, it said use the following pieces of context to answer the question at the end. If you don't have the answer, just say you don't know, because if you don't pass this, it can provide something. It can create something based on the temperature you pass. And don't try to make up anything. And also, you can say answer in Italian. You can say answer in any languages, which is very cool. You can parse the document in English, return the result in a translated one, and that is really cool. And there is another part which is interesting. We can ask to get us some summaries or a chain of thought that how you reach to that point. For example, you can ask why uh, 6 multiplied by 7 is 42, and it can provide some sort of chain of thoughts that why this is happening. So this is really cool to see some of those examples. I think it was like intermediate, yeah, intermediate step. So for example here, I'm looking to find a better solution. Yeah, in intermediate step, it said tonight I'd like to honor someone who has dedicated his life to service the country and blah blah blah. Thank you for your service. And the output text, it said Justin Breyer, thank you for your service. So the question was, what did the president say about the Justin Breyer? So it's showing the part of the document as intermediate step for reaching to that answer, and that is really cool because that's the chain of thought. We can see from the language model how somehow it's thinking to reach to that answer. Or maybe we can ask only return only output, return only the answer. So uh, if you want to back to here, I want to try two different things. One is having a prompt, one without it. And first, let's do it without prompt and using the refine. So by having that, I have loaded a chain. And by having the chain, what I can simply do is, first of all, I need to have a question. Let's find a question. For example, I want to ask, what is the GitHub repository? We have a GitHub repository here. Or I can ask, what is the Tektron GitHub repo? Okay. And for doing that, first we need to find out which part of the document has that. So we have created a doc search before based on the embedding, and we can say find the similarity. It uses a KNN algorithm. I think there are some other parameter you can pass to not just use KNN or use other thing. And this query will be, again, go to the doc search, embedded, find the KNN, return some part of the document that mostly has the things that we want. Then we pass that using the call function of the chain. We pass that input document and what is the query and give us the output. So if I ask this, sorry, it should be question. If I ask this, it say the query is not defined. So it would be query or question. Oh yeah, so this should be also question. Okay, if I ask this, let's see what it is returning. At first time, maybe if the document is huge, it cannot do it perfectly, but also look at this. When we created this, when we created that chunk size, it said some of the chunk was longer than what we have expected. So it's better to increase this to something that cover everything. So I think like 200 is a good value. But so far, if you see, we have the question and we could get the answer, which is very cool because that's exactly what we want. And what we have returned also, you see, it said input document is this one. So I'm guessing that these docs, if I look at these docs, it's coming from the document searching, and it has this document. It's just find by KNN as a first step. And you have also this one, because I think it has a detector on inside it. Another one is also find this one, maybe why it's returned. What is the detector on GitHub repo? Is there any GitHub repo, stuff like that? No. So you see, these are the document or part of the text that is mostly containing that information, and then we pass that document and the question to the model. So there is another way to ask that question and answer. Let me have this time. Let me do this bit with stuff, and I want to create a prompt. And for that prompt, I want to say, let me have another on top of it. So we need to load it from prompt template. And I'm saying, giving the following extracted part of the long document and a question, create a final answer. If you don't know the answer, just say you don't know the answer. Because in the previous one, suppose I ask something that doesn't exist, like who is the, let me, who is the United States president? Okay. If I ask this, I think docs will not return something valid, but it still should have something, because KNN has a K value, like 3 or 4 different document. I think default is 4 for LangChain. So it will return 4 docs that mostly doesn't have the word that we want. And the language model try to return something, and if it is not there, because it is a language model and it is a powerful language model, it can return something valid. Not from the document, but it's just providing it. So let's see, is it taking too much? Yeah, you see? So these are the document, and it say Donald Trump. Interesting. So uh, I don't know that the data this model is trained with, but when we say who is the US president, it said Donald Trump, but we don't have any Donald Trump in that language model. I mean, in that documents that we have. Yeah, and maybe, I don't know, because of different D here, you have dots, dashes, underscore, stuff like that. I'm not sure about it. So that's one of the things. But if you say, if you don't know something, just say, I don't know. And also, uh, we can say some other information like text can be unordered. I tried this one, doesn't work, so I don't want to add this. Or maybe there are some typo, fix those. Sometimes doesn't work. And I think that would be a good query. So the prompt, we say it has a summary, and it has a question, and we create a template with this template. And what we need to do is we need to pass that to the chain. And we say the prompt is the prompt. And by having that, if I load this, uh, I should run this first and have this, yeah. So now I can do the similar thing. So I have a document search using the embedding, then apply the chain. So why it's still returning Donald Trump? So I said, if you don't know the answer, just say that you don't know. Don't try to make up the answer. Respond in English. Okay. It shouldn't say that. It should say I don't know. Uh, I think I need to run from this part, or maybe from the part that we load the data. Yeah. Yes. And then I don't want to load this one. I come down here. I have this new model. Let me ask this. Oh, am I doing something wrong? Let me restart the cell because I'm not sure that I'm doing this right. So we load this, and we come down here, we load the data, we load this one, we have the chunk size, I mean the character split and data ready, And then we come down, we have the prompt, and we create this chain and we ask a question, and it's again passing that. So maybe I should not say this. Let me change the prompt and see. It's, I, I don't understand. So it shouldn't, because based on the example I've done so far, it didn't do like that. So answer the question based on summaries. It shouldn't create any content. Okay, cool. Yeah, seems playing with that make that a little better. So it said if you don't know, you just say that you don't know. This time it's not returning Donald Trump, and this time it's returning don't know. So that prompt is really important to change it, and the language model actually is getting that information. Um, so if I ask another question from this document, for example, what is the length of the name? Yeah. So if I ask, what is the length of the name? And we can have typo. So I want to have something like this. Oh, it said we don't know. Yeah. So if I had typo, I couldn't detect it. But if I don't, it's say between 3 and 63 character. So we can have playground with this. So without any training, we are returning some of the information from the document that we have. Let's ask another question like, yeah, and this is very cool. It said, by default, chain and agent are stateless, meaning that they treat each incoming query independently. But there is a way to remember interaction. There is a memory implemented in the LangChain that you can use that memory. And that would be really cool. And that memory is like every time we add those answers and previous conversation to the new prompt and ask that again. So of course that memory has some limitation. People are working on that to make that even better. So what question we can ask? We can ask, what is Chroma? I think, what is Chroma? Chroma lets you manage collection of embedding using the collection of primitive, creating, inspecting, and deleting collection. Do we have really this? Chroma uses collection names in the URL. Yeah, exactly. This is really cool. Yeah, so it could uh, learn this document and return. So I think there are some way to like, if you have multiple documents, you can manage that better. But I think that that was a very cool example to look at these two interesting library. One is Chroma and one other is the uh, LangChain. And feel free to look at this. There are lots of interesting stuff like if you have a graph data, for example, this is a node connecting to other node. This is the same node connecting to other. So I don't know, maybe this is Intel, then 20 billion semiconductor, then megasite, then is going to build. So that would be a knowledge graph with just, I guess, Intel as the main node. So you can ask some question like, what is Intel is going to build? And it said, entering new graph QA chain, say entities extracted is Intel, and full context is Intel is going to build something, or Intel is do what. So that is really cool. There are many, many good stuff here that you can look at. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please put a comment and help me to have more subscriber, more energy to build more video for you. Have fun.